internal problems cannot be solved by external solutions. Your vision for your life, when that gets manifested, cannot solve the problem that you do not know yourself. When you are so rooted in yourself and your beliefs and why you are the way you are, other people are just going to have to adjust to that.
You're listening to the Soul Whispers podcast. This is your guide to break out of your fears, follow the path that lights you up, and come home to yourself. I'm your host, certified life coach and soul whisperer, Jen Sway. Before we begin, know that wherever you are in your journey, you can trust yourself. You're being divinely guided, and your life is meaningful. Now, let's start the show.
Hello, friends, and welcome to season 2 of the Soul Whispers podcast. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Jen Sway. I'm a soul whisperer as well as a certified life coach, hypnotherapist, and intuitive tarot practitioner. This is Cleo. She is my little kitten that I've had for 7 years now, and she joins in on all these podcasts. If you're watching the video format of it, you'll see her come in and out. But welcome to season 2. I'm so excited because I am testing out this kind of drop series-esque thing, kind of how Netflix does, like, here's a season of Bridgerton, and you just binge it, and it follows a theme, right? So we'll see how this goes. I have done similar things in the past with 12 Days of Breakthroughs. So if you're unfamiliar, in 2021 and 2022, I did something called the 12 Days of Breakthroughs, and this was during Christmas times. So instead of like 12 days of Christmas, what it was 12 episodes every single day to help you break through your own limiting beliefs and these levels of conditioning to come home to yourself. And in this season, on the summer solstice, which is all about abundance, bringing in the good of the universe, really kind of manifesting, right? Coming into the manifestation of whatever intentions you set in the spring equinox. With that energy, I really wanted to share all this wisdom around relationships that I've gained from my life experiences, as well as seeing how many people I've guided through their relationship challenges, whether it was with themselves, their friends, relationships in business, in their careers, and of course in dating and romance. This season is an 8-episode drop all about relationships, how to manifest them, how to have the best relationship with yourself that you can, what that truly looks like and what that sounds like, and also how to go about creating, transforming, and renewing these soul contracts that you have with people when they don't feel aligned anymore, but you also want to bring them into your next chapter, or really invite them to join you in your next chapter. I realized for myself that I've never really had trouble manifesting relationships, whether it was friendships in elementary school where my best friends moved away, like all by 5th grade, and then having to bring in new people, but never really fitting into any social group. At the same time, though, because I didn't have a big social group didn't mean that I didn't have close friends. And for a long time, I thought that that was an issue, that I'm supposed to have like a group of 20 people that I was really close with, or be part of some type of clique. Instead, I found myself really entrenched in deep one-on-one relationships that were extremely supportive, very fulfilling to me. And at the same time, I wasn't fully present in, because I didn't have that awareness yet that those are the types of relationships that I'm really drawn to, that I feel most fulfilled by. Same thing happens with romantic relationships and partners. I had gone through a myriad of unhealthy relationships with toxic patterns, codependency, verbal, sexual, emotional abuse. And then I also have experienced very deeply loving, safe, supportive, unconditionally loving relationships as well. And just seeing myself go through those transformations, it's been a really interesting journey to see how much it truly is your internal world being projected onto other people around you, your personal reality being a reflection of your personality, and how much just your energy that you show up with, the power of one really, how the energy that you show up with is going to affect how you get treated and what happens to you, for you, etc. And in recent years, I've really seen this be highlighted, especially in money and in business. And one of the pieces of clarity that I've come to is really that money is a reflection of your relationships, because all money is energy, right? You could substitute money for favors. You could substitute money for trust, right? And you go back to when money was first created, it really was this reciprocity of trust, right? Of I'm going to give you this in good faith that you're going to also have my back when I need it. And especially in this transition time for the entire world where we're coming into this new earth era, quote unquote, kind of this shift in society that we all feel where we are starting to care more about the impact that businesses have. We're caring more about the individuals. We want to kind of flatten that social class, but also make everyone rise up, right? We want to give everyone the opportunity to build their own businesses, become six-figure, seven-figure entrepreneurs, have time and like freedom and work-life balance and all this stuff. But how does that actually work? This is all coming from a shift of consciousness in the collective that starts with the individual. It starts with looking at the paradigm in which you are operating in, the beliefs that you have, the truths that you have, what visions that you have, and then being able to express that in a way that is authentic and aligned to you, to create that magnetism that invites in the people around you, like the people literally closest to you, your friends, your family, your coworkers, and then at large, your community, and on a bigger scale, the collective consciousness to rise to that as well. So as an opener to season 2, I want to dive deep into my core philosophy that I call the soul whispering philosophy, because it truly is the root of how I have been able to help everyone that I've helped since the beginning of my career, before I was even a life coach, before I called myself a soul whisperer, before I even found tarot and hypnotherapy, all the way back to when I was a personal trainer, group fitness instructor, and holistic health coach. At the heart of all the services I've offered ever since the beginning, it's always come down to the core pillars of helping people develop self-trust in themselves and confidence, which comes down to safety. And the only way to really self-source that safety in order to be able to hear your own intuition, trust yourself, and then execute on that, execute on whatever the dreams you have are, whatever guidance that your internal compass is putting you towards, whether that's in a relationship or business or career or your health, whatever it was, it always came down to these 3 things. And I want to share with you that story of how I came to it for myself, how I implement it, and the changes that I've seen in my life by living in this way, as well as these stories that I've been able to garner from helping people from all walks of life, all different ages, literally coaching people from ages 12 to 65 in industries like people who are baristas and college students, to people who are running 7-figure businesses, to people who are moms and dads and, just whatever, like literally all over the place, how this core philosophy has helped everyone not just create more free and fulfilling lives, but really allow themselves to be their authentic self, to find their purpose, to find true happiness in the now, in the life that they have now, in their day-to-day, instead of feeling like they have to chase some certain vision in order to get to a place where they can finally feel happy and fulfilled and purposeful. My core life philosophy that I'm going to share with you in this episode is going to be a common theme throughout not only just season 2, but beyond. In everything that you see now, you're going to be able to see how my core philosophy has been able to be executed and expressed through each piece of content that I've created, the newsletters that I send out, the workshops I create, these episodes that I film, all of the guidance that I give. It really is rooted in these 3 things. This philosophy is so important to me that I'm literally writing a book on this. And for the last few years, I've been stress testing this, really going through all of these different scenarios in my head of how this plays out in the conditioning that it plays out in, as well as going through all of the challenges that people have presented to me over the years, where they have felt stressed or felt confused, felt overwhelmed, felt uncertain in their lives, in their careers, in their personal relationships, and how to navigate their life next. Because at the end of the day, I really think your quality of life comes down to the quality of your thoughts, your ability to feel and articulate your feelings fully, and also the quality of your relationships, how well you are able to communicate yourself to maintain these relationships and to receive the love that you really want to receive. So my core life philosophy, the thing that I am rooted in, that I'm committed to living by, as well as coaching by, teaching by, serving by, is virtues, values, and vision. This is essentially the opposite of what most of us have grown up and been conditioned to believe in, as far as how we need to set goals, who to become, how to figure out who is it that you are, and how to really go about living your life, making decisions. If you envision this as a circle, right, you can envision this as a core, right, and then an outer circle surrounding that core, and then another circle coming out of that. or you can imagine a human body, right? Your human body and the inside of that, then your human body itself, and then the world around your human. So if you think about the way we're conditioned, it was always vision first, right? Think about the way that we were talking about goals. You have to know, what do you want in 5 years, in 10 years? Where do you want to be? What do you want to be when you grow up? Who do you want to end up with? What's the body type that you want to have? What is your goal? What is the end salary or the weight or whatever it is that you want to create in your life? And then you work your way backwards, right? You work your way backwards to figure out how much money you need to make a month, how much food you're supposed to eat, the types of people you need to hang out with, what you need to value in your life, how you need to use your time. And it's always this like backwards working into trying to create this vision for yourself that you do not have right now. And what I have seen time and time again is that this shit does not work. If this worked, New Year's resolutions would be like the most incredible thing ever, right? Everyone would hit their New Year's resolutions, but we know this isn't true. This was such a big fallacy that was so clear to me from the get-go of my career before that, even when I just saw for myself New Year's resolutions never worked. I was obsessed with trying to change my body, change my weight to become the skinniest, leanest person. I had so many deep-rooted insecurities in myself, so much trauma that was suppressed that it was really like, oh, the only thing I could control was my body and my weight, but I didn't see it as that. I just saw it as like, oh, this is going to be really healthy. This is going to make me happy. This is going to make me love myself instead of loathe myself, telling myself how much I hate myself every single day, literally having life-ending thoughts every single day of my life as a teenager going into early adulthood. I was like, my weight is the problem, like the way I look. Because if I just looked better, if I was prettier, if I was skinnier, then I would have the love that I want to have. Boys would like me. The people who I liked would like me back. I would have the opportunities that I wanted. Like it was all of these things. That led me down a path of disordered eating habits, of calorie counting, of really being so harsh to myself for years, wasting so much energy that could have been spent on friends, that on my purpose, on school, on whatever else, but so much energy is just spent thinking about myself and my ego and my body, the food that I was eating, feeling bad about myself, trying to be a perfectionist on all these little things, right? It just wasted so much life force energy by going through that because I was trying to fulfill a vision. And I see this so often in all these people who come to me, whether it's in their careers, right, or their relationships, where when it comes to their careers, like they focus so hard on getting to a certain place, or they think they need to focus really hard on getting to a certain place. They need a stable job, a stable income, and then they can pursue their passion, whatnot, right? And on that path to creating that stable, secure life, they are the most miserable people ever. They do not like their work environment. They're in a toxic work environment. Their bosses are awful to them. They're dealing with sexism, of racism, and all this stuff. And at the entire time, they are suppressing their truth because they feel like that is what they should do, right? That path is right for them, that is for the good of them, that is going to benefit them somehow in the future, so they stay in that. Same thing with relationships. Oh, I just want a relationship. A relationship is going to give me that unconditional love that I want, that acceptance that I want, just like all the happiness and all this shit that I want. So what am I going to do? I'm going to mold myself into being exactly what somebody else wanted me to be. And so this is where we see so many women people please, and men too. Men will suppress their emotions as a form of people pleasing. Women will try to change themselves, be like, oh, whatever you want, or I like what you like, and I can be this way, blah, 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 blah. And this goes both ways. At the end of the day, people are not being their true self. They don't even know who they are. They don't even know what they like, or they're so unsolid in it because they're such fear that they're going to end up alone, they're not going to be liked, they're going to be rejected, they're going to be failures, they're going to be behind in life. They're driven by all these fears instead of the actual desire that they want, because they are told that this vision is going to bring them happiness, right? They truly believe that, even if nobody else is telling them that. They themselves believe this. And so think about this for yourself too. Like, what is the vision that you have in your head that's like that golden ticket where if you get to that point, you're going to be so much happier. You're just going to be successful forever. You're just going to be like, ooh, so good, like rainbow sunshine daisies all day, every day. Because that is going to be a fallacy. All that is an illusion right now, right? And the reason why that is because on the pathway there, it is this complete I don't have that yet. It is going to inevitably create a feeling of inadequacy when you're actually trying to create motivation, when you're actually trying to create inspiration, but instead you're going to be using guilt and shame. And this is why at the core, when people get to a certain place, why we see celebrities still be incredibly unhappy, why people with a ton of money are incredibly stressed, why people who like Robin Williams like commit suicide. I'm not saying I know exactly why he did that, right? But if you want to get to the energetics of it, it's because internal problems cannot be solved by external solutions. Your vision for your life, when that gets manifested, cannot solve the problem that you do not know yourself, cannot solve the problem that you don't understand what actually brings you joy, what actually brings you happiness, cannot help you understand your emotions, why you feel a certain way, what to do with those emotions, how to feel them properly, and then how to express them so that you can get the support you need, or so you can change it yourself, or so you can sit with them without feeling like you're going to spontaneously combust because you're feeling so much grief and anger and depression and anxiety about yourself, your life, the world around you. Your external reality is not going to change that. It might give you even the resources to. And I see this too with people who with literally millions of dollars and people who are working minimum wage jobs or are unemployed. And it does not change the fact that your mindset, your mentality, the way you make decisions and the way you see yourself, your worthiness of yourself may not change with your external circumstances to the point where you actually feel comfortable making a decision to say, hey, I'm going to get some help. I'm going to hire somebody. People love to look at celebrities, people who have more than what they have, or people in relationships and think, oh, well, if I was in that position, yeah, I'd be happy too. That's not what makes them happy. It's the ability for them to actually be like, yeah, I'm worth investing in and I'm going to steward my money here instead of feeling stuck in scarcity. Or them being in a relationship and them being able to say, oh, I still love myself, I still love my life, and I still value time alone with myself, time with my people around me, that allows them to have a beautiful, flourishing life as an individual, as well as bringing that energy into a relationship to create a good relationship. Because the opposite is also true. These people who have everything, all these resources, and live in so much fear and scarcity that they isolate themselves. They're afraid that they're going to be scammed. They're afraid that people aren't going to like them for who they actually are. They start becoming assholes because they feel like they need to protect themselves, right? And it's this defensiveness that we see that becomes themselves, that becomes their personality, that becomes the way that the world sees them and experiences them. And that's how they get stuck in that, right? And even with little resources, same thing. You feel very defensive, you feel very protective, you don't want to share what you have, you feel inadequate, right? You question everybody around you if they're judging you, if they think that you're not enough. And then you become a very closed off, isolated person as well. You become very sensitive to criticism. And again, unhappy in your life. So what is the actual solution to this? And this is where, instead of the core and the first guiding light being your vision, which then can show you what you should care about and what you should value, and then going through the existential crisis of like, who am I really? Instead of going through that journey in that direction, we reverse it and start with, who is it that you are? We start with your virtues, and your virtues are different from your values. This is such a big missing piece of the conversation. I'll dive into it in a little bit. But you're going to start with your virtues. You're going to identify your values that you want to apply your virtues to. And then that is going to help you actually create your vision. And your vision is going to be a co-creation with your soul that is ever evolving, that is always speaking to you, with yourself that is always evolving, as well as the universe that is also always evolving and has your back. And the thing with virtues is that this is essentially a set list. Like, you don't have to guess what your values are. There's a lot of rhetoric that has been like, oh, find your values, and here's this list of like 250 values to choose from, and they're all super, super similar, right? And you're like, well, I value everything on this, but just like in varying degrees, right? And it's really hard to actually understand what are your values. It's because virtues is such a big missing piece of this conversation, and this hits at the soul of who we are. when you look at the question of who is it that you are? Who are you really? Who are you truly? This has nothing to do with the roles that you're in. This has nothing to do with your gender identity, your job description, whether you are in a relationship or not, right? Your relationship status. This has nothing to do with whether or not you're a cat person or a dog person. What this hits at of who is it that you are is your soul essence, the energy in which you walk in. When it comes to who is it that you are, this is how you are going to be able to derive your own principles from. This is where you can derive your own code of conduct in this world so that you can feel like a good person, so that you can feel that you are in alignment and in integrity with yourself. This is the root of it all. So all virtues can be distilled down to 7 virtues, and that's going to be temperance, humanity, justice, courage, transcendence, and wisdom. And within these break down from temperance things like mercy, humility, prudence, self-regulation. Within humanity, there's love, kindness, social intelligence. Within justice, there's fairness, leadership, citizenship. Within courage, there's bravery, integrity, vitality, perseverance. Within transcendence, there's hope, gratitude, humor, purpose, an appreciation of beauty. And then within wisdom, there's perspective, creativity, love of learning, curiosity, and intellectual humility. Then there's also these biologically driven foundations such as care, authority, fairness, loyalty, and sanctity. So when you look at these virtues, you realize a few things. One is that everyone has this. Everyone has their own moral code of conduct. Everyone has an internal compass that they're operating by, whether they know it or not. Because with every one of these virtues, there's also the chaotic version of it. For example, within bravery, without that rootedness in your virtue of bravery and what that looks like to you specifically, without that feeling of it for you, then you can be left in either being completely reckless or being completely cowardly. For me, my guiding light has always been authenticity, and that has been true since the beginning of my personal development journey, since I started healing, since I started my business, in the way that I operate in relationships. It's always come down to authenticity. And if you think of that as like the shining light, the shining core of myself, then I have just been doing all this work to basically drill down all the conditioning that's been on the top layer, all my fears, all my doubts, all my insecurities, all of my like discernment of my own criticisms versus my intuition. It is me drilling down to really hit at the heart of what does authenticity feel like to me in my body? What does that actually look like to me? And then be able to be guided by that feeling to express, okay, yeah, these are my curiosities. I think this is what feels authentic to me. Let me go try it out. Yeah, this feels really right. And it's the path of least resistance. When you're living in integrity with your virtues, you're going to see that it is very like path of least resistance. For example, with me being vegan, like if someone were to be like, hey, eat a piece of meat, I'd be like, no, right? And that's because of my moral code of conduct, where that is not an authenticity to me, that is not integrity with me, that does not feel right to me, that does not feel just to me. And because of that, it is very easy for me to say no. But that is the heart of it. The value might be veganism, right? But the virtue that is operating actually, that is who I am, is somebody who's integrity with this feeling of justice, with this feeling of fairness, with this feeling of what is right, what is wrong, right? Really that like moral compass that is driving me to make those decisions to become vegan. So this is where we're actually going to move out to the value side, right? When you have that core, that light within yourself that is addressed, and you know what it feels like to actually be in integrity with yourself, to know what feels right, what feels wrong, what feels good, what feels bad to you, then you actually can look at your values. And your values is going to be where your virtues are going to be applied to. So let's keep using this example of veganism, right? I value veganism because of my virtues of justice, right? That I had already talked about, right? And even like in health, right? Health is a value of mine. And that comes from me knowing that I need to take care of myself. I have love for myself, love being a virtue, right? I have love for myself for the people around me. And I know the people around me who love me also want me to be healthy and want me to be happy, right? I know that for my purpose, which is a virtue of mine, I need to be able to think on my feet. I need to be able to move my body. I need to be able to speak. I need to be able to be healthy in order to fulfill my purpose. Therefore, health is a big value of mine. And in tandem with that, that looks like veganism. My core life philosophy of virtues, values, and vision really is about optimizing for personal fulfillment and for alignment with your true self. It's this understanding that in order to live a fulfilling life, you actually have to be able to feel fulfilled. And that's going to come from knowing who is it that you are, what is it that you care about, and letting life kind of do the rest of showing you what that looks like. This is the reason why so many people get caught up in like, is this the right decision for me? What should I do? What should I not do? Because they haven't actually understood who is it that they truly are from that core level, that soul essence level, knowing their virtues that's going to give them that rootedness in themselves to then have a guiding compass into how do they want to express what their priorities and their values are, and then letting the vision happen on its own. We were sold this idea that if we have a good vision, if we know what it is that we want, then we can go ahead and be that thing. We can go and apply ourselves to it and we can be that thing. And at the end of the day, though, you can't be someone that you're not. And if you don't know who it is that you are, you're only going to keep creating these false versions of yourself, which is why we see all that unhappiness of people being in careers that they don't want to be in, people in relationships that are unhappy, people being so confused, so stressed out, so overwhelmed all the time about what is the right thing to do, what is the good thing to do, what should they do, instead of doing what is most intuitive, which is feel into your body to feel what feels right? To lead with intuition. That is actually how we are wired to be as human beings. Yet at the same time, we were given this brain, we were given these egos, we were given these fears to also grow our spirituality, to grow into our best selves. And we overuse that brain and ignore our body. We ignore our intuition. We ignore our souls. We over-rationalize, over-intellectualize everything. And on the other side, we might over-spiritualize everything because we're not using our minds to actually apply what we know in our souls to the external world for it to materialize. That's why in my concept of virtues, values, and vision, it's not that your vision isn't important. It's not that knowing what you want is bad or having an idea of what it looks like is bad. It is a detachment to that final outcome so that you can actually enjoy the entire journey on your way there and also be open to creating and inviting in more than you ever even thought was possible. Like, when I was a kid, I could never have envisioned myself living in Santa Monica in a one-bedroom apartment with a cat. I didn't even like cats back then. Did I think I would be having my own podcast? No, I did not, because I didn't even like the sound of my own voice. Did I think that I was going to be a tarot reader? No, not at all. I was like still so shy about my love for astrology. I didn't want to tell anybody about that, much less like my curiosity into tarot. It just wouldn't have happened. And yet I am living such a deeply fulfilling life that I love, like literally living my dream life, building my dream business with the most incredible loving souls to support me in that journey. And with all the twists and turns of uncertainty in life, I don't feel fear. I mean, sure, I'm a human, I feel fear, but like that inherent feeling of fear that's going to stop me from living my life, like I don't live with that. And the only reason why this life has been possible for me is because of this concept. When you really look at your virtues of who is it that you are, your soul essence, and you tap into that, which for me is things like Child of Wonderment and Soulfire Catalyst, which are my true self's names that I've given. It really comes down to these hearts of curiosity, of love, of integrity, of courage, of justice, of hope, of transcendence, and the spirituality, right? This desire to serve the collective, this desire for wisdom, for perspective, and to live my truth. Those are the virtues in which I'm operating in. And then that just naturally gets to be expressed through my values. And my values are things like my family and community, really like friendship, community, family. That's all a conglomerate for me. It's feeling connected to people. Relationships are something that I deeply, deeply value. And you look at how I run my business, it's all based off of relationships. I really care about the people that I'm serving. I love one-on-one and I love community. I love in-person things and I love virtual things that allow me to really go deep with somebody and hold space for them in that way. Those are the things that I value. I also value things like the environment and my health, and also things like money, which kind of sounds taboo to say, right? But you're allowed to value money. But the only way to properly value money in my mind that feels in alignment to me is by knowing what my virtues are first. Because again, your virtues, you can think of this as your energy, your life force that you steward those resources to, that gets applied to your values. So me feeling like I'm a responsible person, responsibility being, and like integrity being a virtue of mine, that gets to be applied to things like money, where I'm like, okay, in order for me to be a responsible steward of money, of privilege, of my time, of my resources, of my love, then that gets to be expressed through it, where I get to put that into my people. I get to put that into my business. I get to put that into the world. I get to put that into things like self-care and service to other people, right? I get to just express it through that way. And therefore, I get to also love money in that, because it's not this like greedy, gross thing. It's a neutral thing that I get to put my attention and my love into. I get to fuel these things. I get to fuel my relationships. I get to fuel my business. I get to fuel my health. Even things like Cleo, my like little love child here. I get to fuel all these things with my soul essence, with my energy, the way that I value my podcast and my business, right? I get to fuel all that energy into it. And the vision of my entire life, the way that my life looks like to other people, or in the grand scheme of things, the story that I'm building, I'm not in control of. I am in charge of, right? I'm in charge of the way that I respond, but I'm not in control of. And that is the most liberating way to live, because that allows me to truly live with my flow. When I was starting off my business and I was gunning for like, okay, I need to make 100K in my business or whatever, then it becomes a very transactional way to live. And I knew that it didn't feel right for me. So it was this weird, like, but I care about the transformation. And that's like, I know what my mission is. And at the same time, it feels like I need to make a certain amount of money and be very like, about it. Like I had to really think about the money and that stuff behind it, and like the selling and the marketing. How do I make that feel aligned to me? But like also, it's just weird. It creates all this tension, and it just felt weird, right? Business felt weird for me for a long time. It's because I had to undo so many beliefs. I had to reprioritize, things in my life. I had to redefine things like success and what money meant, and relationships and my business and myself, my worthiness. I had to undo and rewire so much of that stuff in order to actually get to the root of who I am, my core, and actually get rooted enough in that, be solid in it enough to let that now be expressed through those values again. It was literally like unzipping that conditioning of your vision first, and like what you want being the thing that is at the core first, and then like who it is that you are, how you apply yourself, like all that stuff being secondary and tertiary. It was undoing all that stuff, flipping it from the inside out, and rebuilding it. That was my tower moment. And I love this way of being, because this is what has led me to living a truly fulfilling and purposeful life. This is what allows me to be able to make decisions in times of uncertainty with trust in myself and trust in the universe, because it's like, I don't need it to look a certain way. I don't need to be attached to a certain person in order to know that I'm going to be able to feel loved. I don't need to attach myself to a certain dollar amount in order for me to feel like I am being purposeful, or that I am useful, or that I am worthy, or that I'm gifted and talented. I don't need to look a certain way in order for me to know when I feel healthy or when I don't. These are all things that are internally like drilled into me now, that I am solidly rooted in, for me to be able to now express my gifts, my talents, my time, my resources in through the world. And then let the universe, let other people also join me in this through just the way that the universe works. I think the best way to showcase the story of how I came to this understanding of virtues, values, and vision, rather than the other way around, is through my story of how I went vegan. Because if you think about veganism, like it is not socially very accepted. It is very small percent of the population are vegan, but the ones who are, and the ones who stay vegan, are the ones who have really done this work with themselves to understand who is it that they are, what do they care about, and how do they want to express it. And the thing is, even with veganism, I'm not necessarily like so attached to it, as this is part of my identity. It just has been for 8 years. And at the same time, I think through the natural evolution of my life, I don't think I'll ever go back to eating meat. I don't see that for myself. But things like honey, just recently in this last year, I started consuming honey again, like honey that I've been able to find that's ethically sourced from people that I know who are the beekeepers. These are all very important things for me to stay in integrity with what I care about, which you'll see through how this works with virtues, values, and vision, without having to feel like so bad about myself, like I'm a terrible person now, or that I'm out of integrity with myself, because I have gotten to the root of who is it that I am, and then how does that want to be expressed. So you think about the way that we're taught to think about food, nutrition, animals, our bodies, and you think of like My Plate, right? Where you have to have a certain amount of protein, you need dairy in your diet, and fruits and vegetables, you just need some servings in the day and some whole grains, right? And now My Plate has shifted a lot. When I found veganism, it was because I was so deeply entrenched in negative disordered eating habits. I was so entrenched in like, oh, I have to know what's good for me, what's healthy for me. I was so like entrenched in calorie counting, right? And I had disconnected from myself in a lot of ways. I disconnected from like a lot of hunger cues. I was overriding my hunger cues with like, no, I'm just like thirsty, or like I'd be like, it's okay, like write it out. I would binge eat. I would go and like overwork out because I needed to like be under a certain amount of calories, right? I wasn't even thinking about food and health anymore. It was all to try to get to this vision of what I thought I needed in order to look a certain way, right? I needed to stay under a certain calorie limit in order to look a certain way, in order to get to my body goal, right? That's just not how it worked. Me having the body that I have now, by the way, which I'm very happy with and I'm very proud of, and that I don't really think of too much, to be honest, but I love the way I look. I feel really good in my body. The reason why I look the way I look and how healthy I look is because of the way I feel about my life in general. It's because of this huge shift that I've created for myself, where I went from being this like diet-centric eater to intuitive eating, and really tapping into what does my body want? What does my body need? What does my body feel good in? And who am I as a person? What feels good to me mentally, emotionally, physically, right? Spiritually as well. So when I found veganism, it really hit at like, hey, I have always been somebody who cherished the environment, who loved animals, who, you know, I used to be this big proponent. I remember writing a sign that was like, don't use fur, don't kill animals for fur. And like as a kid, and like wanting to go out and like boycott these malls that were selling fur coats. I remember being the biggest proponent for recycling for my family. I was the only person in my family who really cared about recycling, and like we all had to recycle because of me. I remember being like, you have to turn off the AC, or like don't use the AC so much because it's bad for the environment or something. And it was just like a whole thing, right? And so for me to become an adult at 18 and be like, hey, actually, like, I heard of this thing of veganism and I did all this research on it. I listened to all these people's accounts. I watched these documentaries. I've done the research on the health and the nutrition benefits of this all. I've seen the impact of it on the environment, and I see the research, the truth of this, and it feels so resonant to me, right? That was like my light, my soul light shining so brightly that this was right for me, that this wisdom, this perspective, this feeling of integrity coming through so strongly that it had to just break through the bullshit of this is what you're supposed to eat and this is what's healthy to eat and you need to eat animals and like it's tasty to eat animals, right? It had to break through all these layers of conditioning for me to be like, actually, yeah, no, like I don't need animals to eat and to be healthy. I don't want animal products in my diet. I just don't want that, right? And at the time too, I was going through it like physically. I had like GI issues. I was super bloated all the time. I was constipated. Like I was literally like in pain sometimes from eating food, from eating like animal products. And mentally and emotionally, like I was really depressed. I was really anxious. And I saw this quote by Ellen that was like, if we're eating these animals that are all feeling fear, anxiety, and overwhelm, they're feeling all the stress and like sadness, why wouldn't we feel that in our bodies when we consume it? And that's what really turned me on to the energetics, like the truth again of like me feeling like such a deeply spiritual person, being like, yeah, that just makes sense to me. It just clicked. Like, why would I be happy? Why would I not feel like so stressed? Why would I feel a sense of peace and relaxation if every single day I'm consuming something that was just feeling fear for its entire life and then was brutally slaughtered? It just didn't make sense to me. So when I got to the heart of my virtues of what felt good to me, what felt right to me, I was able to apply that to my values. And my values were really clearly like my relationships, my health. And when I looked at my health, right, it was, okay, it's not going to be looking like eating me, right? It's with my family, like I'm going to need to communicate myself and to be able to hold this boundary with them, right? Because I have this love for myself. That was another virtue that really showed through, is like love for myself, love for my body, love for my mind, my peace of mind, my soul, my spirit, to be able to then be expressed through like, no, I'm just not going to eat these things anymore. It's okay if you want to cook them, but and you know, they can say whatever they want to say, which my mom was not happy about, by the way. She thought it was a phase. She was very unhappy with it for years and years and years and years, and even to this day still does not want me to be vegan, but has kind of had to accept the fact that I am because it's just my truth, right? And it kind of shows too, like when you are so rooted in yourself and your beliefs and why you are the way you are, other people are just going to have to adjust to that because your truth is stronger than their desire for you. And the leader, right, of anything is going to come down to who believes strongest, whose belief is stronger, yours or the other person. And if my mom's belief that I should eat meat, that is healthiest for me, was stronger than my own belief of what I think is healthy for me and what I want to do with my body, what I want to put into it, then she would win, right? Or I don't want to say like win and lose, but it's really like then I would be living a life according to her beliefs, not my own. And that's kind of what happened for so much of my life, whether it was with diet or with relationships or with career. And at the same time, I had so much of my own will, so much of my own desire that I just broke out of all that stuff. I just had to kind of let her feel however she feels. I let her think whatever she wants to think. And then me just continuously rooting down into my own beliefs, my own virtues, then what I value in my life, what is actually important to me, what do I prioritize in my life? Where do I want to funnel my energy, my time, my money, my resources into? And then that has now built out into the vision for my life. And the vision for my life, again, like I wouldn't be able to perceive a lot of the things that I have now, right? From a core essence, it's just I knew how I wanted to feel. And so because I let myself feel those things, it just naturally attracted these things to me. I didn't have to force myself into becoming a tarot reader, for example. It just happened. Right? It happened because I followed my virtue of curiosity and the integrity and my pursuit of wisdom, of transcendence and hope and wanting to be of service to people, wanting to find guidance in myself and my own life, and then seeing the value of it and wanting to share that because I have so much love for the world, for these people that I want to help in this mission. I have so much of this purpose that it just naturally had to like get me out of my own bullshit because I had a lot of judgments on tarot. For example, I had a lot of judgments coming from a background in psychology, having a degree, and like feelings of legitimacy and credibility being questioned. But I had to just kind of pull through and be like, hey, this is a really awesome tool and it really helps and I'm pretty talented at it. So I guess I'm doing this now. I'm right, fully owning that. It is just the same thing now with veganism, where I've been vegan for 8 years now. My virtues have not shifted, but the way it plays out is also slightly different, right? Things like me having a vegan partner and that being a really big filter for how I date. And like, you know, that has come through as a shift for me that I would have never thought necessarily when I was younger. And then me also going back to eating honey this year, that has been a big transition for me that, you know, was a whole shakeup in like questioning my moral integrity and like, does this feel aligned to me? And it actually ended up feeling very in integrity with me and the way that I find the honey that I want to buy and the sourcing of it, knowing the beekeepers, right? Like all these things that are important to me that still feels aligned with me, but technically isn't vegan, right? It's allowed me to have the flexibility in my life that I need in order to continue moving in alignment with my soul and my evolution of myself. And even in my business, I see this come through where I go back home to the virtues of why I started this, right? What is my mission? And that has always been the core of what I've done. And I look at how it actually played out. And it's so interesting because at each transition in my business, from becoming a personal trainer, a holistic health coach, a nutritionist, to then incorporating life coaching, becoming a certified life coach, and working on confidence, self-trust, and productivity for people, working with a lot of people in corporate or working with people who are, younger than me, older than me, who is really rooted in wanting to understand themselves, have more trust, have more work-life balance, and then adding in spirituality to it, now becoming a hypnotherapist, an intuitive tarot practitioner. Like at every stage of those transitions, there was always like such a deep calling, a deep knowing of like, this is right for me, this is the next evolution for me. And if I was so attached to like, no, I'm like a health coach, right? Or no, I'm a life coach. And I did go through a lot of that resistance. That resistance was keeping me stuck. That resistance was what was keeping the money from flowing. That was what was keeping clients from flowing. That was what was keeping ideas from flowing. That was what was keeping my feelings of own like personal fulfillment and alignment from being in my body, was being so attached to what it looked like that I forgot about what it actually was, right? Because what it actually was that it was not feeling right. And what it looked like was a past version of me's desire, or even in some cases it wasn't even my own desire. It was like, this is what the industry says it has to look like in order for it to be successful. This is also what's led me to now of being so much more flexible with where I go, just knowing that things are going to keep changing, right? This is what has led me to be so rooted in like, I feel like I can take risks. I can be courageous in what I do. I can, still be productive in the face of uncertainty. I can still sell when I don't feel like the greatest about myself, or I'm going through PMDD, is because I know what my virtues are. I know what my true self is, and I know what is actually genuinely important to me, the values that I have in my life, right? The priorities of my relationships with people that are close to me, my health, my well-being, my mission, right? And because of that, life becomes a lot more simple. Decisions become a lot more simple. Things like me even being so passionate about human design right now and learning so much more about that while I'm deepening my experience with tarot, right? I can totally see myself maybe even becoming a certified human design reader, and maybe my business shifts a little bit more towards that. Maybe my business completely shifts to just tarot and human design. And then, who knows, like I'm in a new partnership now, and, there's so much love there. And if I want to have a kid, we want to start a family, maybe my business is also going to shift to like parenting and like all this stuff. Like you just like, there's all these thoughts and these ideas and these visions that I can have for my life. And it's really like me being lit up by these things that keep helping kind of fuel the fire of like, oh, I'm curious about this thing. Let me see what that looks like, right? And at the heart of it, it's always doing it in the way that feels most aligned to me. That's where the visions come in. That's so helpful, is like it gives you this sense of like desire and excitement in your life, and it helps you channel your life force energy. But it's not about getting to that point. It's about having a place to direct your energy towards that is in alignment, so that you're always magnetic towards what it looks like that is aligned for you. When you are on that path of magnetism, when you are truly being you and you're in alignment with your virtues of what you're doing, then you're going to know what is the right decision for you or what is the wrong decision for you. You're going to be able to feel in your body what matters and what doesn't. And oftentimes a lot of decisions that we overthink on actually doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we say yes to, or it doesn't matter if we say no to. We just have to go and do it or not do it and see how we feel, right? That is, at the end of the day, how our vision becomes this thing that we get to be guided by, but not be attached to. Why we're able to manifest things beyond our wildest dreams, because we are just open to receiving what is in alignment for us. And we would know when that comes because we are living in that today, in our present moment. So friends, that's everything I'm going to say today about my core life philosophy, about virtues, values, and vision. More on this is going to be coming soon, and you'll see this be applied through every episode. I just want all of you to have this basic understanding of where I'm coming from with it, so that when we do kind of go deeper into these and have more examples of it, you're not just caught up in like, oh, why does she just keep mentioning this thing? It's because this is a philosophy to live by. I so deeply believe in this philosophy being the key to living a very purposeful, fulfilling, and aligned life. So if you enjoy this episode, please share it with friends, share it on your story, on Instagram, on social media. It really helps me and this show be discovered. It helps other people find their truth. And if you can, I would love to invite you to do me a favor and rate and review this podcast on wherever you are listening to it from. It genuinely helps me and this channel, this message, grow to more people, for more people to find it. And especially with this next season coming out, all about relationships, if you have ever been frustrated about being ghosted by somebody being rude to you, people not being professional at work, if you've ever been frustrated about people basically being emotionally immature, or been frustrated about yourself and not having the wisdom that you do now, then definitely share this podcast and rate it so that more people can find it. Hopefully this all collectively creates a society, a community of people with more emotional intelligence, who take more responsibility for themselves, know themselves well, and overall leads to a society that feels much more purposeful, connected, and loving. With that being said, friends, I will see you on June 20th on the summer solstice for season 2 of the Soul Whispers podcast. Until then, stay well.